Hello, everyone, and welcome to Book Break. Today, my special guest is Megan, who is an avid reader, and we've had her here on the show before. And she's got some great picks for spring for us. Despite our current weather situation, which it is snowing here in Western New York, folks.
It is nasty.
In April. So, being from Maryland, I find this very, very hard.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, the April snow, cold wind.
We're calling it second winter.
Yeah. Very appropriate.
You know what's nice, though, is that when it does break, it breaks hard.
Yeah.
You know.
Our summers here are actually really nice.
And they've gotten longer.
Yeah.
They extend into November now.
Yeah.
And that's fine with me. I feel like I'd rather have a later summer than an earlier spring.
Good point.
Yeah, rather than it being, like, cold in, like, August. You know, like, when, like,
Right.
starting to get cold in August.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll bear the snow for you then, Sean. All right. So I'm going to start my first one. I've kind of got like a bunch of eclectic picks, you know, something different. And my first one is called The River Knows Your Name by Kelly Mustian. And I read another book by her, and I believe like during the pandemic when we had our online book, like historical book club or whatever, we read one called The Girls in the Stilt House, and we had a Zoom kind of thing with her. She's a Southern storyteller. She's originally from Mississippi, and she currently lives in North Carolina. And this book is one of those dual timelines, and it's set in Mississippi, in the Delta, and North Carolina, up in the mountains, which is kind of like one of my favorite parts of North Carolina. So one of the timelines is set in 1930, so kind of Depression area timeline. And there's a woman who is a young widow. She's trying to bring up a toddler without any family support. Her husband, who's passed away, her mother is very controlling and she really wants the grandchild and nothing to do with her. So the 1970s story is about these two girls who are sisters, not related sisters, but they have this mother who's kind of different as well. So the one sister, her name is Nell. She's really trying to figure out her past. For 30 years, they've kept this secret from their mother that they found a copy of Jane Eyre in her bookshelf.
Oh.
And in it is a recording of her sister Evie's birth, naming a woman they don't even know as her mother. So they're trying to figure it out. Evie kind of doesn't want to know. It's like, well, you know, this is what I always remember. But Nell, the older sister, has memories of moving around a lot, like not always living in North Carolina where they're living. So she's starting to get really curious about how did her family form, you know, no father figure, like what is going on here? So we have like, that's in like the 1970s. So they're both kind of historical, which is normally with these dual timelines, you have one that's historical and one that's
like
more
like
modern. But so of course there's secrets. One of Nell's discoveries is her mother was like a lounge singer in New Orleans. And then it starts to make sense to her. So she literally goes down there and starts visiting the places she remembers, like the hotels. And, you know, she finds a receipt with an antique store. And that's the one thing I can say about this book that was really hard for me to, like, after a while, she introduced so many characters. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
You know, and I had to pick it up and put it down a couple of times. And it was an ebook because I had read it as an ARC. So it was a little bit hard for me to keep the storyline straight, and some of these characters, there is a river in Mississippi that has, you know, the strong part in the storyline, very atmospheric read. So if you like kind of like that Southern drama, family secrets, you know, and it all resolves pretty well, this might be for you. So yeah, I liked the whole nightclub singer thing and
That's pretty cool.
why her mother made the decision to do what she did, you know, and how Evie came into their family. So I certainly don't want to spoil any of that because, of course, that's why you're reading the book, to find out these secrets. But, yeah, it's a world where the distinct lines between like who is a hero and who is a bad person kind of blur. So
And so the timelines are they connected, or is it so like as Evie's finding this out, we're like living it in the old timeline, or
well, she's finding out who the people in the old timeline are.
Okay.
And how her mother actually fits into this
Okay.
timeline. So really the woman in the 1930s that's the mother is Evie's mother.
Okay.
It's her real mother and what happened to her and why she did what she did. So
that sounds interesting.
yeah, it was interesting. Kind of brought up things I didn't know about. And her other book was kind of the same. So yeah.
Did you like one more than the other?
I think I like The Girls in the Stilt House a little better than this one, just because, for some reason with this one, because there were so many characters, and it as at a time where I couldn't just sit and read. I had to really think about it, and putting it down and picking it back up made it hard for me. But once I finished it, I liked it.
Okay.
Yeah.
I might have to check. This one sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah. What's your
Well,
first one?
My first one is called Heartless Hunter, and I don't want to butcher her last name, but it's Kristen. I think it's Cicciarelli. And it's a YA, it's a romantasy duology, and it was actually published, I just looked this up because I was like, oh, it must be new. It was published back in 2024, like in February.
Oh, wow.
And I know it kind of got a little like buzz like on like Book Talk and like
Does
Instagram.
it have a moth on the cover?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it's the Crimson Moth duology.
Oh, okay.
And so I'd heard about it like when it came out, and I was like, sounds kind of good, but the second one wasn't out yet. And then a friend of mine was like, do you want to read this fantasy? And I was like, yeah, sure. So I got it on Libby, and I zipped right through it. It was so good. But so it's kind of one of those like tale as old as time, like YA fantasy stories. It's a forbidden romance between a witch and a witch hunter. But the twist is with this one, it kind of feels a little more like, not like, kind of more modern. So she is a witch in hiding, of course, but she is also the witch vigilante known as the Crimson Moth, and she's kind of been hiding right under the nose of everyone in their society, but also the captain of the witch hunter, who is her best friend's brother. So like they've interacted at parties and in the village and everything, and she's known him as long as she's known her best friend. And so in the aftermath of this devastating revolution, the witches kind of come out with the short end of the stick, and Rune had to betray her grandmother, the one closest to her, to kind of protect herself, because basically the witch gene doesn't get passed down to everyone. You kind of find out like not like into like your like late teens.
Oh, okay.
It's kind of when you find out if you're a witch or not. So she finds out that she is a witch, but most of her childhood they were like, well, you're not going to be a witch. It doesn't pass down to everyone. But so she's to betray her grandmother to save herself. So she's kind of seen as, to some, like an outcast for betraying her grandmother, like in her witch community. But to everyone else, she is now like kind of a hero, kind of a savior, because she speaks out against the witches. And, you know, they invite her to parties, and they give her, like, they let her have speeches to kind of denounce who she is. But so one night, so she does all these rescues every night to kind of save the witches from being purged, is what they call. They basically like kill, like basically execute them like publicly. And so her family owned like a merchant, like a shipping company. So she would save these witches and send them out on her shipping boats. But one night, she is not able to save the witch, and she's taken by the witch hunters. So she decides that she needs to kind of throw them off of her scent. So she pretends to court Gideon Sharp, who is the notorious and unforgiving witch hunter.
Oh, of course. Do they fall in love?
Of course they do.
Do tell.
So, well, his loyalty is to the revolution. His background, you know, his family served like the witch queens. He was in a relationship with one of them, and it was very toxic. You know, she abused him, her family, and so his loyalty is to the revolution. He hates the witches. But eventually his kind of like team finds that connection of the witch company, or of the shipping company, to Rune, who has been portraying herself as like a socialite. You know, she's spoiled, she's wealthy. He hates her. He's like, you're rich, you're wealthy. I'm not. My family was poor. And so when he finds these connections between Rune and the Crimson Moth, he's like, well, I need to get close to her. So he also decides to pretend to court her. So they get close because
So we have a double fake
Yep,
dating
so
trope.
she's playing him, he's playing her, and I think my favorite part was that like she was always playing him more because he was like, well, I just want to like ask her some questions, but she's like, I am literally saving these witches. I'm getting all my information from him. I'm stealing from him. It's very, very, very deep, and she's so like cunning. But so of course, like things get very messy because they're like, I kind of like him, but she's like, he wants to kill me. And there's like my favorite scene. There's like one where like he is like close to like capturing her, and he doesn't know it's her. And this whole time she's like, I gotta get out of here. He's gonna see my face. But it is so good. So it's very like cat and mouse. Like he gets close, she gets close, and they keep pulling away. And they're like natural enemies.
So have you read the second one?
No, I just got it on Libby yesterday.
Okay.
I finished the first one, and it finishes in a way that you're like, I immediately need to pick up the next one because like something gets revealed. They have a falling out when, because obviously he's going to figure it out.
Right.
And so like they're falling out and something else happens and there's uprisings and something's revealed about one of her friends that is like very interesting.
They're going to have to band together.
So it's like, so they end kind of on not great terms, but the next one I think I read a little quick like sample of it and it picks like right back up, which I really, really like. Okay. And it's cool because you have this like magical world, but it's also very her crowd is very wealthy, very like exuberant, and his like mission is just to like get her in jail. So it's pretty cool. Damn. It's felt very similar to, I don't know if you ever read, it's called Serpent and Dove. It's another like YA, I think that one's a trilogy, and they're also witches and witch hunters, and they end up somehow they end up married, which I didn't remember that when I read it, but kind of same thing where it's like they're sworn enemies, but they're pushed together. So I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah, that enemies to lovers is very popular.
Yeah, and I love it. And I feel like it's most well done in fantasy where they're like, they actually shouldn't be together at all.
Yeah.
Sometimes in like in like contemporary romance, when they say they're like enemies, I'm like, you can't be enemies with someone you work, like, you might not like them, but you're not enemies.
Right, yeah.
But I'm really excited to dive right into the second one, and I like duologies more than like trilogies, or I don't need it to go past like 2 or 3 books.
No.
So I'm really excited to see kind of, because they have that kind of a falling out at the end, so it's like interesting to see how they get back somehow to being together in the next one. But yeah, because like that Serpent and Dove, I didn't finish the series, but this one I'm like, I need to finish it.
All right. Well, my next one you might like because it was an adult book, but kind of gave me YA vibes a little bit, and it was called Once Upon a Starlit Tide by Kel Woods. So this was a fairy tale inspired kind of historical fantasy, and it kind of took elements from both The Little Mermaid and Cinderella and almost threw in a little bit of like pirate lore,
okay, I'm hooked.
and brought them together. So it is set in Saint Malo, Brittany, in 1758, and the main character is Lucinda Leon, and she is the youngest daughter of one of Saint Malo's wealthiest ship owners. But while her sisters are interested, they're all beautiful, of course, but her sisters are interested in what most women at that time were interested in, which is, finding a rich husband, securing the line, being wealthy and wearing great dresses and,
of course.
All the things.
Peak living.
Yeah. But Luce likes to escape the house. She goes down to the beach. She has a friend who is an English sailor who is not a ship runner, but smuggler. So this is like the pirate element. So they do a lot of, and there's also a magical world where there's stone that is like fairy stone that brings powers, and it brings like safety to the shipping routes and everything. So there's a lot of magic in this story, but yet the natural magic is starting to deplete, and the magical people, like the fae and everything, are moving away from this area. So something is afoot, something is amiss. So one stormy morning, Luce goes down to meet her friend, but her plans are blown off course when she rescues Morgan de Chatelaine, the youngest son of the most powerful ship owner in St. Malo, from the sea. And of course, she's immediately drawn to him. He's immediately drawn to her. And that's where the ball comes into thing. And they kind of have like a sea witch that gives her like
my
a
gosh.
dress and all this stuff. So I kept reading this. I was like devouring it, even though it's like totally mindless. You kind of know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Nothing really surprises you. The only thing with this one, it was a little bit of a twist because it had a little bit of a darker element to it. Because her attraction to the sea, naturally, you start to wonder, she's a mermaid, So why is this mermaid in this
Right.
household with people? Why are they trying to keep her away from the sea? Like, why is her father so successful?
And obviously she's going to be connected to the fairy stone, right?
Yes, because she can find it
Yeah.
naturally where
Oh my
other
gosh.
people can't. Like it almost calls to her from the water. So, of course, the Prince Charming is not what he is,
Oh, no.
portrayed as in the
Yeah.
end. And you start to figure out that he's not so nice, pretty
Mm-hmm.
quickly. And then, of course, her good friend has
The smuggler.
yeah, has really been the one all along. But she makes a surprising twist at the end. So it's almost like it's a little bit of feministic retelling too, that she decides to take the power and find out her own story for herself. But I really liked it, but I love a good fairy tale retelling.
Me too.
Okay.
Yeah.
And kind of that merging of like genres too. Where
Yes.
it's like a little mystery,
Little mystery, a little
fantasy.
historical, because some of
Yeah.
the things are based on fact. Like I was like, was this place really
Yeah.
port or whatever? And it was interesting. It was very good and very quick read. The cover was gorgeous. So
Yeah. Is this out or did you get it as an ARC?
no, I think I got it as an ARC, but it is out.
Okay, I'm gonna read it.
Everything I talked about today is out.
Okay.
So. Yeah, I've actually seen this one on our shelves because I
Well,
made sure I
I'm
bought
gonna
it.
get it.
Yep.
Yeah,
So-
that sounds so good. And
Yeah.
I can like I already hear like the Little Mermaid like obviously
Right.
in there, and I do love a good like kind of like twisted fairy tale.
Me too.
Oh, that
Me
sounds so
too.
good.
So just pull that up a little closer to your face. There.
Okay, good.
Perfect.
Okay. All right, so my next one is my most recent read, and it is The Fiancé Dilemma by Elena Armas. I feel like I always have to bring some like cheesy, cutesy romance when I come on here. And this one also came out last year, and it was her most recent. And I pre-ordered it because she's one of my favorite authors, but it sat on my bookshelf, and I was like, this sounds kind of lame. And I felt so terrible because I love this author. I engage with her on social media. And I went out of town a few weeks ago, and I was like, I'm going to give it a chance. I'll pull it off my shelf, and it is so good. It was probably my favorite one by her.
Oh, wow.
And so it's technically a second in a series, one of those like interconnected. It definitely can be read as a standalone. The first one was okay. It's called The Long Game. So you'll find like familiar characters, same like small town setting. And it kind of like picks up. So like something happens at the end where like Josie, the main character of this book, is like a side character in the first one, and the ending is like her dad, who has been like absent her whole life, is like, I'm your father. I'm the owner of this famous soccer team. I'm rich and wealthy.
Of course.
I want to be a part of your life. Also, you have a sister. You've been with her this entire summer. She works here. So like that's how they're kind of connected. But so what also is interesting about Josie is she has been engaged not once, not twice. She's been engaged 4 times.
Oh.
They have all not made it through. She left them all at the altar. So when I kind
Can
of
you
read,
say red flag?
yeah, I know. So when I read the synopsis, I was like, oh man, I was like, they're gonna rip this girl apart. I was like, they're gonna ruin her. She's gonna be like superficial. She's gonna be like a one-dimensional character. But it turns out like she's just like a person, who falls in love a few times and decides that maybe like marriage like isn't for her. But it kind of felt that way at the time. And of course, everyone she's engaged to, one of them's like a politician. And he's like ready to get married. One of them is a soccer player. One of them is like an influencer. Like, so there are all these like people that are kind of like, she's interested and hooked, and marriage feels like the next step, but it's just not it for her. So with those 4
Do
failed
some people
engagements.
Just feel like they're on an escalator doing a natural progression. I wonder about this. Like, why? Why would you do this
I know,
4
like,
times?
why does that feel
Like hypergamy?
I
We're
just,
trying to marry up.
yeah, I don't know.
level up
Or
each
just
time.
like, no
Yeah,
matter.
I see, like, that's kind of what I was like, oh, well, she's going to be like, like a gold digger. And I was like, they're going to ruin her character. But it's just, she just didn't really know any better.
Okay.
But so with those 4 engagements and now a father who wants to come back into her life, she decides that the only way to kind of clean up her image, because someone tells her, like, you're kind of a PR disaster for your father, who's rich and famous. He has a reputation. She decides that the best way to fix this is to get engaged a 5th time, but, kind of convince everyone that this is like the 5th and final time. And the perfect guy is her new sister, who she just met, is like now lived in this town, is her best friend who just quit his job. He, doesn't really have a purpose anymore, so he moves to town to come see her. And Josie sees him and is like, hey, come here, you're my fiance now. And he's like, huh? And at first he tries to kind of resist. He's like, I'm not going to do this for you. Like,
What is this called?
it's called the fiance dilemma.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he's like, I just met you. He was like, I just moved to town. I just quit my job. I have no purpose. I'm not going to be your fiance. And she's like, but like,
I think Josie needs counseling. What say you, Sean?
I know, not a
You
fiance.
said Dad just came back into her life?
Yep.
Yeah.
And I would predict that a lot of her issues get cleared up when they start to establish a relationship.
Which actually, all he does is cause more problems because he lives in Miami. They live somewhere in like Carolina, and
Okay.
he shows up and he's like, I'm gonna throw you a wedding. It's gonna be perfect. It's gonna be extravagant. And she's like, well, I don't want any of that. And because he sends his assistant to manage everything for them. So of course they're faking an engagement. And
Does she love this? Oh,
They
I'm
li-
going to ruin the plot.
they lie to everyone.
I'm ruining the
you
plot.
Sometimes you just want to be like, you know what, guy? Let's hit pause on this real quick and look at it for what it really is.
And see, that's the thing, is like, it sounds so dumb and so cheesy, but like her writing is so good.
Yeah.
And it's like, so it's all like single point of view. And this was like I do like the dual point of view, but she fleshes out every character so well that even like if you appear once in the book, I'm like, I know everything I need to know about you.
Okay.
And it's like, it's kind of goofy because Josie's kind of a mess, like she hasn't, like her father's her only family. He wasn't in her life. Her mom has passed. She has like a grandpa who's not really like a grandpa, but just like an elderly man that like takes her in because she lives kind of in the town. She's the mayor of their small town.
Oh my God.
And so like, she's just, she's kind of a mess.
Yeah.
But you kind of grow to love her. And the whole time in this engagement, she's like, I know this is crazy. I know this is ridiculous, but it's like, I want to help. She's like the fixer. So she's like, I want to help my dad's reputation. I don't want my sister to get caught up in my mess and everything. And, there's shenanigans and they have to play it up. But like, so Matt, I don't know if I said, so his name is Matthew and he is just like kind of a mess all on his own, but he handles everything so well that he's like, yeah, I know this is crazy, but I just want to help you. So they're like kind of like equally matched in that like we both want to fix everything. We both want to like take care of each other. And of course they end up falling in love and everything is hunky-dory. And at the end, I could have done without the dad. He was the worst character. And obviously he's there to like create chaos.
Yeah.
And in the end, he's like, well, if you want a relationship, we can. But I'm like, that could be left in the past.
Yeah.
So I kind of like they kind of left it open that it's like they don't need to, have a relationship because she's been without him all this time. And all he did was kind of ruin everything. So, and like he's the reason that they faked this engagement in the first place. And I don't know. I really enjoyed it. It does sound kind of goofy and silly, but I was kind of surprised because I did kind of go in with a like, it's gonna be bad mentality, but I loved it. I
Well,
thought
sometimes
it was
you
one of her
just get
best.
sucked into the story and, like
Yeah.
you say, you're entertained.
And it's not my like favorite trope, like
Right.
the fake and like even though both the books I've mentioned so far have the like fake dating type thing, it's not my favorite, but I mean,
A lot of romance today.
yeah, we love love.
Well, I'm going to take us in a murder direction.
Thank
Because
goodness.
Claire loves to go to murder. This one is called Heartwood by Amity Gage, and it was, I believe, the Jenna, Bush Hager pick for this month.
Oh, from like the Today Show.
Yes.
I have not read, knock on wood, I have not read a bad book from her picks yet.
Yeah.
I love her picks.
Yeah, her picks, at least, they're usually very good book club picks. There's always
Ooh,
something
yes.
in there. So this one was the minute I heard the word Appalachian, it's like, Claire's in, Claire's in.
That's a green flag for
Yeah.
Claire.
So this one it was supposed to be a slow burn, multiple point of view mystery and suspense novel involving the disappearance of a 42-year-old hiker on the Appalachian Trail. And this woman had started, I guess, in the middle and was going up to Maine and then was going to go back. They called it a certain thing, which I can't remember now. So it wasn't like a total through hike, but her husband was expecting to meet her at the next checkpoint, and she doesn't arrive.
Uh-oh.
So, and he grows increasingly worried, and then when she's not there, like the next day, he reports her as missing. So the 3 points of view come from the woman that's actually missing, and she's writing almost like a memoir letters to her mother, and that's how her story is told. And then we have the main forest ranger, whatever, that's in charge of the whole search and rescue mission. And it's a woman. Her name is Lieutenant Bev, I think Beverly. So she's a game warden. And then the third point of view, which kind of came out of nowhere for me, was this 76-year-old bird watcher, and she lives in a retirement community, and her name is Lena.
Ooh, I kind of love those like surprise like perspectives where it's like this kind of doesn't make any sense, but
Yeah, well, that was the thing, is I personally had trouble with Lena. It was like, how sometimes you'll identify with the two voices. I really could have gone with just the warden, like trying to find the search and all of her, like what they have to do and how they go about searching, which was very interesting.
Yeah.
Because there's a real method to the madness, like
Right.
how they have to send out scent things, and the scent dogs only can work in certain conditions, and as the sun goes up and the wind picks up, they could be sending them like in the total wrong direction, and just how they do quadrants and everything. I found that fascinating. But, Lena, she's this kind of bizarre character.
Yeah.
She wasn't very likable at first, and you understand why she's like been stuck in this nursing home. She doesn't have a good relationship with her daughter. And then I'm thinking, is she the mother of the person? But then they rule that out pretty early on. So it's like, okay, it's not her mother. So why is Lena here?
And so she's in a nursing home. I was gonna say, does she like at least like live in the area? Does she like
No, she's
frequent
in
the trail?
Connecticut. So
Oh.
she does love nature. And of course, she's a forager. Well, come to find out, she's in a chat room or something with this person that lives in Maine.
Okay.
And that's where she gradually becomes part of the story, because he lets her know that this woman is missing and that he's working on it, and all these people are volunteering to search. So she becomes a little armchair detective. And some of the things she finds out actually become very important.
Oh my gosh, that
Yeah.
sounds so interesting.
Yeah, but so, you go through all the usual tropes, like, was it the husband? Was it another hiker? You meet different people. It's like there's interviews interspersed between these narratives of like, with other hikers that she became friends with on the trail and when she was last seen. And one of the people she was friends with on this trail was this extremely overweight guy, Hispanic dude named Ruben or something, that was from like New York City.
Yeah.
That was very overweight. People made fun of him. His whole family made fun of him. Like, you're never going to be able to do this. But yet she, took him in and, we're going to do this. We're going to do this together. So the other funny thing is everybody that hikes, and I assume this is true, had like a nickname. They have a trail name.
Oh.
Like hers was Sparrow. The Rubens was Santo, so each person might, and they kind of referred to them as that. But it was interesting. There was a lot of exploration of motherhood, self-discovery, resilience. And I kind of rated it a 4. It's not what I would call a thriller by
Okay.
any means. So if you're expecting like this white knuckle,
Yeah.
normal thriller, this is not it.
More of like a kind of like ongoing like is it more of like a mystery?
It's more of a slow burn mystery, and I would call it more literary.
Okay.
But I liked it. I didn't like it quite as much as I thought I was going to, just because it was hard for me to. I almost was skimming through the one parts of the one character that I
Yeah.
didn't like as much. But then at the end, it was like, oh, okay, now I know why you were here.
Yeah, like all those before made sense.
Yes.
Do you think it would have made sense to have like the husband's perspective? Like, do you ever hear from him, like, kind
He's-
of as he's like, what's going on? Like, where's my wife? You know?
Yeah, you don't.
Okay.
And they kind of portray him as an odd duck,
I
probably
kind of like that.
yeah, probably to throw you off, and because you're always thinking, was it
Yeah.
him? You know, but yeah, but it was good. I like it. I thought it would be good for a book discussion.
Yeah,
So
and I like the setting idea too of like kind of it's so vast, like
Mm-hmm.
you don't really ever know like where she could be or what could have happened to her, and I feel like she probably has done some research into the like
and
the game warden, like searching the land and figuring out all of that. That
there
sounds
is
so cool.
a secret. This was another thing that they threw in there. Up in Maine, in the remote portion close to the Appalachian Trail, is a U.S. government training center for people that when they're sent overseas, it's like to help them from if they're taken captive.
Oh.
Like, how would you deal with that? What would you do? So it's an extremely secretive facility,
Yeah.
and that's in there too.
Oh my gosh, that sounds
So,
so interesting.
yeah.
you were bringing
You
good
really
ones.
have to keep up with your game. Like,
Yeah.
this isn't something you just read, put down, and guess the plot.
Right.
You know? So,
Very interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
Move that a
my
little closer, Megan.
oh yeah, sorry. Good.
Yeah, you want to kind of just
I
like.
was gonna say I haven't even like I feel like I've like shifted.
yeah.
Good. Is that better?
Yeah, I can.
Okay. Okay, my last one is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. And it is like about like figure skating, like ice dancing. It's kind of that similar like multi-perspective, like interviews.
This has been a very buzzy book.
Yeah, and I am all over the hype. Like it is well deserved. So when I looked it up just to get like an idea of how they're describing it, they say it's an epic love story set in the cutthroat world of figure skating. But to me, like this is not a love story at all. Like yes, there is romance and there's like elements of relationships, but it is so much more than that. And this one kind of caught my eye. Same thing, kind of like through Instagram, and right before it came out, it just came out end of 2025 or beginning of 25. And I saw some people talking about it, and I was like, I like dramatic, I like messy, and it seemed very similar to like Daisy Jones and the Six.
Oh, okay.
Because it had people that had read like advanced copies where like it has like interviews. It's they're making a documentary, and it's just like kind of an expose of this story. So when Katerina Shaw, our main character, who knew she was destined for Olympic greatness, meets Heath Rocha, a lonely kid stuck in the foster care system, their instant connection makes them a formidable duo on the ice. So she kind of meets him. I don't remember exactly how they come together, but he's in the foster care system, and she's a figure skater looking for a duos partner. And she's like, have you ever ice skated before? And he's like, yeah, like I've dabbled, And so they come together, and it follows their journey like all the way up to like the Olympic Games, and they dance together all these years. And it turns out that when they get to their Olympics game, like they tease kind of like a big like incident, a big like falling out, it's going to be explosive, and it shakes kind of the whole like ice skating world, and they never dance together again like after that. So it's kind of starts out, it's like their 10-year anniversary of them splitting up and not skating together anymore. And someone is creating kind of a unauthorized documentary.
Okay.
So it kind of it introduces to you. It's it like says like, oh, you're watching the show, and it says like, welcome to The Favorites or whatever they call it, and it sets up this like docu-series, and they're interviewing like their rivals, their teammates, like other people they dance with.
Oh, this sounds fun.
Like coaches, like officials, and it's like all these people that they introduce in the beginning, and I'm like, I have no idea who these people are yet, because
is this based on anyone in real life?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I do like elements of their story, like Tanya Harding kind of had that like rivalry with some of the people, so like some things felt kind of reminiscent of that.
Okay.
But it's like its own story all on its own. And
Okay. There was no knee bashing, though, right?
no. There are some other some other incidents where it's kind of like they did that to like somebody else.
Oh my gosh.
Like they get kind of creative with it, and I'm like, that is twisted.
Yeah.
Because so it starts out with the documentary, and then it flashes back between. So Katerina, or Kat, is like, when the documentary comes out, she's like, I don't want you guys telling my story. This is my story to tell. It's my legacy. So what you're reading is her story, her life story, and it jumps back and forth kind of from like the beginning, and it time skips a little bit, but it's her perspective the whole way through, and then it has those like interviews included throughout, which kind of is like, this just happened. Do you guys remember this happening, and how do you react to it? So it's her time kind of to define her own legacy and tell her own story, which kind of is more shocking even than anyone could have assumed. So, there's like relationship drama, there's partnerships that get shaken up, and there's injuries because, it's like figure skating. It's like, It's kind of cutthroat. So like when I tell people about it, I'm like, it is just so messy. Like even when you think it's like, that's the worst of it, there's like more backstabbing, there's betrayal, there's like friendships that are kind of like frenemies. And the one thing that I kind of think about when I think about this book is how every character is just like perfect in their own way. Like they're all meant to be like, someone's meant to be like the villain, and someone's meant to be like, the best friend. But even if there's like characters that are like, you're meant to hate them, you kind of love them, the way she writes them and the things they do. It's just so interesting. And I mean, like, I have no connection to figure skating whatsoever, but it's just so juicy. And I'm like, I have to imagine that some of this is real.
Oh, well,
that, like,
you have to think that this world of sport, especially when you get to that level of the Olympics, just think of all the endorsements. So, you're going to get cutthroat because this is the difference between making a really comfortable, living versus always scrounging and getting by.
Right. So, and it's just like when Kat and Heath kind of start out, I mean, their coach is like, pretty well known in the figure skating world, but, they're two kids, because you start out when you're like 12, 13, 14, you're like in juniors, and then you kind of work your way up, but you can only skate for so long. You only have so much time.
Right.
And Kat is like fully dedicated. And Heath is kind of there because Heath loves Kat. So that's the thing too, is like their chemistry is really strong. They kind of take risks in their figure skating, so they catch people's attention, but it takes a little while for them to get there. And then they move to this like big like figure skating like training school, hosted like it's like owned by like the best to ever do it, like Kat's idol. And then her kids, this like coach, they also figure skate. Of course they're like perfect. They're great. They're brother-sister duo. And they get all the money, all the costumes. Like Kat's costumes are hand-me-downs. She makes them herself, like her family, which that's the other thing, actually. Her brother is her guardian, Kat's brother. He has like alcohol issues. He has drug problems. He does not support the skating. He hates Heath. And it's interesting too. So like Kat is like, she's a white woman, but Heath is African-American. And like he's a foster kid, so it's like their relationship too is kind of like breaks boundaries, especially in figure skating, which is like kind of like a whitewashed sport. Right. But it's just so juicy to watch like the mess kind of unfold. Okay, I might have to add that one. Yeah, it's very interesting, and the I feel like it. I heard the audiobook is also really good. Okay, that it's like a full cast, like they cast everyone for all the interviews. So like I didn't listen to it, but I might. Yeah, that's another thing they did with Daisy Jones and the Six. It was a full cast. So and that's like, after I read it, I was like, this feels very like Daisy Jones. Yeah. But like where that was more of just like an expose kind of, it wasn't as messy as this one was. Okay. Sounds good. Well, thanks so much for being here today, Megan. And now a three-peat. Yes, and I hope that some of yours and my choices will resonate with people today and inspire you to try one of our books. So next month, we're going to be doing our annual Cozy Mystery episode with Kathy. People seem to really love the cozies. And Molly and I are going to break down a barrier, and we're going to talk about some feel-good fiction, because both of us like weird and quirky things. So. I love hearing what Molly and you are reading. Yes. So we'll see how that goes. But we hope the Easter Bunny brings you some good books to read, and that the snow will finally stop. Fingers crossed. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Book Break is a production of the Reese Public Library, made possible through the support of the Friends of the Reese Public Library. Theme music composed and performed